Hi. So I've mentioned, I think it's in my, one of my earlier videos that for a very long time, I thought that the different parts of my life were separate, like separate boxes. Like this one box here is my career and my profession. The next box is faith, and then the next box, family and parenting, and the next box, leadership, purpose, whatever it is, and so on. And honestly, like sometimes I still think like that. I just can't figure out, sometimes I think, how do I figure out how all these things fit together in the bigger picture? Because from the outside, it looks like many different topics. It should all be separated. Being a lawyer, being a mom, and raising a child who has additional needs, and then myself as well, having my own diagnosis of ADHD at age of 45, and my passion and learning about leadership, emotional maturity, and then in my work with wills and estate planning and talking about legacy. It just can sound like too many things, um, but I'm starting to see something, that maybe they're not separate and they're actually all connected. Because when I talk about parenting, I'm really talking about leadership at home, right? And when I talk about neurodiversity, what I'm really talking about is about how we see people as who they are, properly and kindly. When I talk about emotional healing, I'm talking about not passing old pain and negative patterns to the next generation. Leadership, I'm talking about influence, having positive influence. And when I talk about legacy, I'm not talking only about money. I'm talking about, I want to discuss about what people actually receive from our life. So when I talk about wills and estate planning, please note that I'm not talking only about legal documents, though yes, they are important. I am talking about the preparation, like, preparing well for the people we love in case anything happens to us. So, the deeper question really behind all of this, I think, is how do we prepare well enough for the people we love and the people that rely on us and, have our influence in their life? I think that is why the topic and the area of estate planning really matters and really mean a lot to me. Not because it is just paperwork. Yes, paperwork is the end product sometimes to have whatever your wishes are put into, something real, something physical. But it's not just because it's paperwork. And it's not for rich people only. That's, I think, the common misconception. And I don't want to talk about estate planning because I want people to feel afraid or worried, but more because life is precious. Our family is precious to us, and I think it is really our responsibility that to make sure as much as we can within our control that the people we love should not have to carry unnecessary confusion in case anything happens to us. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect in doing everything, with the planning either, but I'm trying to learn and trying to implement things. So most people think about a will as just being about money, right? Commonly, it's like who gets the house, who gets the bank account, who gets whatever personal effects that you have. And yeah, those things really matter, but to me a good plan is also about love, about having clarity, conversations, responsibility, peace, care, and not really keeping things a secret till the end. I know some things you don't want to, disclose or discuss from the beginning, but from what I've observed, it actually sometimes secrets can make things worse for the family in the end. Because when someone passes away, the family is obviously already grieving in hardship. They're sad, shocked, exhausted, very emotionally drained and overwhelmed. And if there is no clear plan, it just adds to everything else, and it will make it even harder and heavier. Like, people in the family may start asking, so what did mom or dad want? Who's supposed to make the decisions? Where are the important documents? Where can we find it? And who will care for the children? What will happen to them? And people will start asking, why didn't we talk about this earlier? Why didn't we plan for this, right? Even very practical things like, if something happened to us, would our family know where to find important information, like bank account details, insurance policies, superannuation, documents to do with the house, if there is a business, any business information, who to contact for help? And these days, even worse is the digital things too. The endless passwords for different accounts, email accounts, cloud storage, social media accounts, any online type of accounts or subscriptions, Netflix accounts, and important files, photos, the list goes on, right? Of course, these things need to be stored safely. We don't just write passwords anyway, and we don't just share sensitive information carelessly, especially in today's world of a lot of scams and all that. But someone we trust should know at least where to find the right information if something happens to us, or what to do. Because sometimes the problem is not that the family doesn't care, it's just that they don't know where to start with everything. And when people are already grieving, searching for everything can become another heavy burden that just adds to everything else. Of course, a document cannot remove the grief and sadness when someone leaves this world. Of course not. When we love someone, losing that person, the grief is real, the sadness is real. But having a good plan beforehand can reduce any unnecessary confusion and difficulties in managing things. It can help give direction and help the people we love the most know what to do when their heart and mind is already tired. And this, I realize, connects so much with what I've been talking about so far. Because if parenting is leadership at home, then part of leadership is preparing and planning well, right? If our children need preparation and not just protection, then part of that preparation is thinking and planning and talking about the future, guiding them. If being different is not less than simply being different, then families with children who have additional needs may even need even more thoughtful and more detailed planning beforehand. And so if generational impact matters, then we cannot only talk just about the emotional legacy. We also need to talk about the practical legacy. Because love is not only about what we feel. Love is also action, is also how we prepare. And I know these conversations are not easy at all, and I know that most of us hate talking about death and don't really want to think about it at all. I get it. People don't like talking about money or inheritance, or who will having to think who will care for my children in case things happen, and what happens if we become so sick that we can't do anything. I know all these things are hard, like to decide who will make decisions if we cannot make our decisions ourselves. I understand that it's very uncomfortable, but avoiding the conversation does not make the future safer or more certain and real. Sometimes avoiding the conversation actually just passing the burden to someone else later, and that someone else might be our vulnerable children, our spouse that we love the most. And just a small note here before I go on. because I'm talking about wills and estate planning, I need to say this clearly. This video is only for general information. It is not legal advice. Every family is different. And the law can be different in different countries. Even between different states in Australia, they can be different. So if this is an area that you need help with, please, please, please do speak to a qualified wills and estates lawyer in your own area. Ask around for recommendation. Reach out to me if you need some recommendations. If you're in Perth, I might be able to give you some, but this is strictly just information only and not legal advice. And also for today, maybe this is just about getting started and thinking about it, not about rushing to do everything perfectly. Maybe it's just starting one thought and conversation, asking yourself, what would my family need to know if something happened to me? You know, who would make the decision? Who would care for the children? What are the important documents that I need to have, and where do I keep it? Do they know? Do my loved ones know where to find it? And thinking of other things that might make things easier for the people that you love. Because maybe our life is not separate boxes. It is one story. Family is connected to leadership, which then connects to emotional maturity. Parenting is connected to legacy, and legacy is linked to planning well, and planning well is connected to love because it's for the people that we love. And then love is connected to generational impact because it will impact the next generations in our family, right? So, yeah, let me leave you with this thought, Have a think about what is the conversation that your family should have earlier, now, rather than later. Be blessed, and I'll see you in the next video.